Hey everyone, this is Paul, and you are listening to episode 18 of the Generation Latino podcast. I cannot believe we're 18 episodes in. I know I keep saying that, but I truly mean it when I say that it means the world to me just to be able to release a new episode and grow our listeners. And I just love seeing that. After today's episode, we're going to have two more episodes. Every season is going to have 20 episodes. Once we're done with season 1, we will start up again on August 11th with new episodes, new content, new interviews, and just a whole plethora of topics that people want to talk about. Once again, thank you for tuning in. It means the world to me, and I hope that you're enjoying these episodes. And if you are, please feel free to share them with family members, friends, strangers, anyone that you feel could relate to any of the topics. Growing up Latino, gay, growing up with an immigrant grandmother, or anything, dating, whatever it is, we have a bunch of topics here at the Generation Latino podcast. So please feel free to share, like it, thumbs up it, whatever you can do to show love. I would greatly appreciate it. Today, I am going to ask you all a question, and you know me, I love to ask questions. How many of y'all out there suffer from imposter syndrome? I know I'm someone who does, and it is a constant day-to-day thing that I have to work on myself. But how many of you out there suffer from imposter syndrome? And for those of you who don't really know what imposter syndrome is, I will explain it. And sometimes you may be suffering from imposter syndrome and you don't even know that that's what it was. So today we're going to dive a little deep into imposter syndrome, what it's like being a minority, having to deal with imposter syndrome, and just all of the struggles that come along with it. So here you have it, episode 18, imposter syndrome. What is this feeling? All right, so imposter syndrome. As long as I can remember, I've always dabbled with a little bit of imposter syndrome. And when I was younger, I couldn't really identify what it was. And then as I was getting older, when I was feeling like I didn't belong in certain spaces, not worthy of, not good enough, I couldn't identify the fact that that was imposter syndrome. So we're going to start off with just like the basic Webster's dictionary definition of imposter syndrome, and then we're going to dive a little deeper. So, according to Webster's dictionary, imposter syndrome is a psychological condition that is characterized by persistent doubt concerning one's ability or accomplishments, accompanied by the fear of being exposed as a fraud despite evidence of one's ongoing success. I'm going to simplify all of this for you. Although that was the Webster's version, for me, if I can just simplify it, it's not feeling worthy of being in a space. That's what it comes down to. It comes down to not feeling like you belong somewhere, where in fact you do. You work just as hard, you aced the exam, you got that degree, you got the promotion, but still deep down inside you feel like you don't belong. And why is that? Why do we feel sometimes that we don't belong? And I'll speak from my experience, and any time, guys, that I ever speak on anything, it's from my experience. It's from what I have gathered from my background as a Latino, as a queer kid, as a leader, as someone who is, has educated themselves, all of that. I'm not just speaking out of my ass. I'm speaking from experience. So, imposter syndrome. I grew up seeing my mother and my grandmother not wanting to take up much space. They didn't want to make any noise. They just wanted to do their job and leave. Don't ask questions, any of that, right? I'm growing up and I'm seeing this. Like you just kind of, especially when it comes to work, especially when it comes to seeing people in relationships, because imposter syndrome isn't only work related. some people feel like they're only good enough for something that they're able to reach. So some people are in really bad relationship because that's all they feel they can have. There's a part of this imposter syndrome that you don't deserve better. You don't deserve to be with someone who treats you well, who treats you like a princess, who treats you like a prince, or whatever it is, right? I mean, however you want to be treated. So oftentimes, what do? We settle. We settle because we are not worthy. And I think worthiness and imposter syndrome go hand in hand. If you don't feel like you're worthy of something, then you're never going to get it. And not just that you're never going to get it, you're never going to believe that you deserve to get that. And that's with anything. And what imposter syndrome does, it really creates doubt in everything you do in life. When you're in a career or you're in a job or in school, I first really experienced imposter syndrome when I was an undergrad. I wasn't someone who made straight A's. I mean, no one in my immediate family really went to college. So I get there and I'm like, I don't think I belong here. Everyone's mom and dad, they're going on a family trip. The undergrad school that I went to was Texas State University, which I loved. But I remember I love my mom. God bless my mom. Like nobody was driving me to school and giving me a kiss goodbye and just wasn't my story, and that's fine. I'm not saying that I needed to be. So I remember getting in my apartment and just like mom and dad, and they were helping their kids get off to their first apartment, and it was a family trip, and they were doing college visits, and I was like, my mom didn't do a college visit for me. She didn't even know what school I'm going to. Like, I literally, when I got accepted to Texas State, I was like, hey, mom, like, I'm going to be moving to San Marcos to go to Texas State University. She's like, okay. As if I was going to the grocery store or something. She really didn't understand, which I don't blame her for. But that's just, again, the culture that we grew up in. And my mom wasn't going to be like, yay, mijo, congratulations, you got into university. No, like that's just not how I grew up, and that's fine. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I get there and I'm seeing these families and I'm seeing all of the shit that you see on TV. I'm like, what the fuck? So that was my first inkling of imposter syndrome, and I thought to myself, I don't think I belong here because where's my dad and where's my mom and where's my U-Haul, like, no. I had a Jeep Liberty at the time. I remember just packing it up and really just moving it in, like it's all it was. I remember seeing a lot of the times just things around me that weren't part of what I grew up watching, right? It just wasn't. So that was, for me, I said, no, Paul, you belong here. You applied at the school, you got accepted just like everyone else, and you do belong here. And I think that's when my work ethic started really to kick in, because I always felt like I was not worthy of being next to my classmates. I was around a lot of people who their parents were able to afford private lessons and voice lessons and theater acting classes and all of that, and I was just a kid who took theater in their community college and just loved it and had a passion for it. When I went into my classrooms, I remember we were doing Greek theater, Oedipus Rex and Shakespeare and high comedy and all of this stuff. I said, oh my God, like, like what the fuck? Like, I don't belong here. I'm reading Arthur Miller and, basic stuff. But even then, I knew that if I put my mind to it and I worked really hard, that I also could be just as good as the people next to me. So that's when I really started focusing on my work ethic, because I knew deep down that nothing could beat work ethic. No amount of money, no amount of privilege. Work ethic is really going to get you ahead and get you what you need. So I didn't rely on anything else. I didn't even rely on my talent. I didn't rely on anything. I relied on my work ethic. So I was constantly always working. And, but I remember being next to people who were phenomenal. And I remember auditioning. I always got a call back when I auditioned. I just, that was all work ethic, right? So that was my first version, if you will, of imposter syndrome. And what it helped me do, though, again, it was help me realizing that I needed to work even harder. So at that moment, my work ethic shifted forever. And I was never the same again. Never again. I always wanted to rehearse. I always wanted to make sure that I did everything in my power so that the imposter syndrome didn't kick in. Because what would happen, I remember there was a show that I did. It was a very popular show that I wanted to do, and I got cast in the show, and I did everything I could. I got in better shape, and I knew everything. I did all my research for it, and I got cast in the show. And I remember the stage manager called me, let me know that I got casted, and I remember before I was going to rehearsals, I was like, no, maybe they casted the wrong person. Maybe they're going to call me back and say, hey, sorry, Paul, but we made the wrong decision. And I said to myself, no, Paul, stop thinking like that. Because honestly, guys, that's what imposter syndrome does. It doubts everything. It doubts everything. So for me, I was like, no, you are going to go to that table read, and you're going to read, and you're going to make sure that you're the best person for this role. And mind you, there was quite a bit of people who auditioned for this role. I mean, I was there. I saw the callbacks. But that's what imposter syndrome does, you know? And if I could give any advice onto what helps cure imposter syndrome, it's your work ethic. Continue to focus on the work that you're doing. Because at the end of the day, no matter what my mind was telling me about being cast in that role, or was I worthy of, maybe it was a mistake, I always worked hard. And you can never question if someone's giving their all and putting everything into something. So I always had to constantly tell myself, you are worthy. You got here, Paul. And if you're listening out there and you suffer from imposter syndrome, I get it. It happens all the fucking time. And it's not easy. And I remember one time, at this time, I was working for a nonprofit organization, and we had to do an annual budget, right? So at the time, I was running 13 schools under me, and I had to create a massive budget for my school district that I was overseeing. And I remember we all had to meet with so it was like this huge board meeting, and it was the CEO of the organization, and all of us had to present our budget. And I remember being so nervous, and I thought to myself, what the fuck? Like, I was feeling nervous, but what was happening? My imposter syndrome was creeping in. And I had to literally look at myself in the mirror and say, look, Paul, you're a director. You're a leader. You have the experience. Whether he's a CEO, a VP, whatever, the president, you are going to continue to do the work. And you're going to continue to shine. I have to really pump myself up. I'm putting music on, like, before I do anything big. So I remember going into this meeting, and one of my colleagues, another director, was like, oh my God, you know, it's such a privilege to be here with the CEO. After listening to some Rihanna and J-Lo and Madonna, I tell my colleague, I was like, what do you mean it's a privilege and an honor to be here? I was like, we earned our seat here. We're directors. We earned our seat at this table. And he was like, yeah, you're right. And for me, I'm talking from a space where I needed to tell myself that, because the truth is that I did deserve that. I earned my spot at that fucking table. I earned, and that's you listening too, whether you're an executive, whether you're a VP, a teacher, wherever you're at, you've earned that spot to be there. You passed your licensing exam. You got your degree. You aced the interview. You have the experience. But what does imposter syndrome do? It sucks that out. And it's like a tick. It just sucks everything out of you. So I said that comment and I was like, I don't give a shit. I remember presenting, and again, I thank you, Rihanna, thank you, Madonna, thank you, J-Lo, whoever I was listening to at the time. Thank you, because sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need that push. You need someone to remind you how much of a badass you really are. And again, it doesn't go away. I remember being in my master's program and thinking, am I really in here with everyone else? Like, do I belong here? Guys, even till the end of my program, I was constantly like second guessing myself. And was I good enough? Was I smart enough? Did I deserve this? And I'm like, Paul, snap out of it. But this is the thing. When you grow up and you don't come from a space of privilege, or somebody holding your hand through something, telling you that you are worthy, it's fucking hard. I didn't grow up with anyone telling me like, you're worthy. You know, what's that quote? You know, you was smart, you was kind, you was important. Like, nobody was telling me that. So like, I had to tell myself that, you know, and I had to tell myself, Paul, you're going to have to figure this out. And imposter syndrome is a legit thing. But what I can say from my experience, you know, even with a master's and a career and living the life that I want to live, you have to believe in yourself. You have to be able to tell yourself that you made it happen. And the truth is, I don't think imposter syndrome ever goes away. I think it always creeps and lingers there. But all I can tell you is to focus on the work. Focus on the task. If you got interviewed and they picked your resume out and you got the job, know that you are qualified for that job. Know that you are not an imposter, that you earned that job. And if you do not feel like you are worthy of, do the research. You know how many times I've had to learn things on the fly? But it's interesting, you know, imposter syndrome is such a scary thing because it really doubts all your accomplishments. And you went to school to be a teacher. You know you got your teacher certificate, but you still doubt yourself in the classroom. You still second guess yourself. That's imposter syndrome. And what I've had to do was really tell myself, you are that bitch, Paul. You are worthy. You have your degrees, 3 to be exact. You have the experience. You are a leader. You have a track record to prove it. And if you're listening out there and you're feeling like an imposter, remind yourself of the work that you have done. Remind yourself of your success, your accomplishments. And if you do need some guidance, there's nothing wrong with the refresher reminding you of what it looks like to be a good teacher, a good leader. I read books all the time from CEOs and leaders and leadership. Polish up your skills. I'm always wanting to learn something new. And I challenge you listening. Learn something new. And I've always said this. Do not let anyone tell you what you're worth. You have to tell them your worth and your value. And I get it, growing up in a space where you just saw people not wanting to take up space or not wanting to make any noise and just happy to be there. No, throw that way of thinking out the door. If you're at the table, if you're at the head of that table, or anywhere at that table, You deserve to be there. And as a Latino, imposter syndrome is a real thing. It's a minority. It's a real thing. It is. Because my parents sometimes never felt that they were good enough for anything else. They weren't worthy of. My grandma only spoke Spanish. I don't deserve a good job. My mom only has a high school education. I'm not worthy of college. Why? That why needs to go out the window. Just do it. Do it. Fear and awe. Just do it. I'm looking at a quote in front of me right now. It says, be afraid and do it anyway. Be afraid. Be afraid of the unknown. But don't let the imposter syndrome get the best of you. Imposter syndrome is not going away. But I'm going to manage it. I'm going to control it. I'm going to be able to say, you know what? I don't know if I know what's going to happen in this meeting, but I'm still going to step in. I'm going to figure a way out. Because that's what it's about. It's about figuring a way out and figuring out what the answer is. If you're out there and you're suffering from imposter syndrome and feeling like you're not worthy of anything great, yes, you are. If you're not wanting to apply for school, college, whatever it is for the job, because you feel like you're not worthy of, no. If you know you've done the work and you know that your resume and your experience can get you that job, apply. Apply. And for anyone out there who is like, I don't want to go to school. I'm too old to go to college. I'm too old. Everyone's young. Gen Z's taking over. No. Listen to me. Listen to me. It is never too late. But what does imposter syndrome do? It makes you doubt everything. So keep telling yourself that you are worthy. Keep telling yourself that you have the experience. Even when you're driving to the interview. It's happening to me like, oh, fuck. I don't know. I haven't applied for this job before, but No, sir. Keep driving. Keep driving and show up. Show up. Because all that it's about, all imposter syndrome does, it doesn't allow you to show up. It doesn't want you to show up. Imposter syndrome does not want you to show up. But I'm telling you, show up. Show up. Be you. Be the version of you that you know you're meant to be. But I want to thank you for tuning in to this episode. I really wanted to talk about imposter syndrome and what it means to me and what it means to my fellow Latinos and anyone who is listening. If you are suffering from imposter syndrome and you know that you have what it takes and what it is, and you know that, please remember, just do it. That Nike slogan, just do it. Just do it. Be afraid. Do it anyways. But I want to thank you all so very much for tuning in, and I will see you on the next episode.